We have big news. We have exciting news for you. Tell them what it is, Serena.
We are super excited to announce that we are starting our first membership this January 2024.
Yay! Membership.
So we're excited to let you know that we will be hosting a monthly membership where when you join, you will be
with us live in a Zoom room once a month for a workshop like we just hosted. It's going to be a workshop like that, one topic each month, a different topic. You might even help us come up with the following month's topic from inside our membership. Super excited to meet you. It was so fun meeting a few of you in our inaugural workshop. So we're really looking forward to that.
And when you are a member, you will also be receiving a monthly newsletter where I'm going to be a little more intimate and I'll be sharing the things that are working and the things that aren't working for me.
Yeah, like taking a tool that you've learned from the podcast and how you're implementing it and how well that worked, or maybe if it didn't work. And then Amma can put in my 2 bits worth. We'll see how that goes. But a membership newsletter and a membership live Zoom room workshop starting in January 2024. Can sign up through our Patreon link in the show notes, yeah?
Yes, everything will be in the show notes, and we can't wait to see you there, listeners.
We can't wait. Yay!
Welcome back, nurturing parents, and happy holidays. And 'tis the season of family chaos and bribing kids with Santa's naughty and nice list. For this episode, we want you to think about what we are actually teaching our kids when we force them to give hugs and kisses in exchange for gifts. So stay tuned as today's special guest dives into this conversation on consent and how we can empower our kids this holiday season. Are you ready? Let's get into it.
Hey, Mama. Welcome to the Nurturing Parent Podcast. Do you want to end the constant battles for bath time? Do you find yourself emotionally exhausted at the end of the day? Do you wake up with big hopes for a smooth day of fun with your little ones, only to face an early morning meltdown because you peeled their banana the wrong way?
Silly you.
Silly you.
Hey, I'm Serena. I am a mama of 2 little ones, and as a new mama, I constantly questioned myself. I wanted to make sure I was raising respectful kids while also building a strong bond with them. But I discovered that I had to unlearn my ideas that punishment was the way. With Lisa's encouragement, I've been practicing a respectful and gentle parenting approach, which is strengthening our bond as a family.
And hi, I'm Lisa. Amma means grandmother in Icelandic. I am a mama and an Amma. And I have over 40 years of experience in childcare and parent coaching. And I am so excited to share the knowledge I've gained over these years with you.
Together in this podcast, each week we will explore some easy to implement skills you can add to your parenting tool belt to help you create a happy, thriving family.
We've got something really special for you today. I'm so excited. Mama Serena was mentioning to me recently that some of the people in her world do the whole thing around gift giving where they say, give me a kiss or you won't get your present. And I was like, whoa, what? And that led us to a whole conversation about consent, about kisses and hugs, and not forcing our children to kiss and hug, and certainly not using gifts as a reward for kissing or hugging somebody. So that conversation led us to reach out to our dear friend, Katie Smith-Courtier. Smith
Courtier.
Thank you. Smith-Courtier. Who originally comes from Australia, as you will hear in her beautiful accent. She lives in the U.S. She has been a friend of ours and a listener since day one of the Nurturing Parent podcast.
OG Nurturing Mama.
Tell me again what OG is.
Original.
Original gangster.
Original gangster. Original gangster. I knew it needed some a little enthusiasm. And Katie had her first baby within the past year. So she's having her first Christmas with her baby in her new family this year. They live in the US, but Katie's coming to us from Australia. She's home for a little visit pre-holidays. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your holiday to be with us. We've wanted to have this conversation with you since day one of the podcast. And here we are. We finally get to have this chat with you. Welcome, Katie.
So glad to be joining you both. Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be interesting being on the podcast, not just listening.
Yeah. Now you get to listen to your own voice. Okay. So Katie is trained as, well, why don't you tell us? I think you would say it more succinctly. And so tell us your background and why you are a bit of an authority in the whole world of consent and bodily autonomy for our children.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I went to university to study to be a health and physical education teacher for like middle school and high schoolers. And I had to do a few electives, and I happened to choose human sexuality because there really wasn't too much that was being taught, even though you were expected to teach these young people about these aspects. And I just found it so fascinating that it's a universal experience that no one really talks enough about, that we all go through it, and no one really has the opportunity to learn and then to talk about it. It's not really a preventative thing that's done as well as it could. And so I just kind of dove into it, and I ended up with one of my first jobs outside of getting my degree was in a field that specialized in human sexuality and like bodily autonomy and everything like that. And I loved the content so much that I took it further and did more of a deep dive and realized how central consent is to so much that we do, all the way from a young age all the way through adulthood and the whole life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, our whole lives, all the way up until we are old people and perhaps needing more assistance with our physical bodies, for sure. Okay, so maybe we could start, since you have an infant still. He's almost 8 months old. He'll be 8 months old when this podcast drops. So in that first year, I mean, are there things that parents can be doing that lead to them developing that sense of bodily autonomy and having a say over their own bodies and giving consent?
Absolutely. And I think most people, they think that it's something that needs to be weighted on as far as having these conversations about consent. But realistically, it starts from day one. As our babies are in the world, where we're in charge of taking care of absolutely everything for them. And one of the most common things is changing a diaper, or as in Australia, changing a nappy. Like,
right.
you narrate the world to them. So why wouldn't you narrate the process of their hygiene with them? So you are talking through, this is what I'm doing. We've got a dirty one. We're going to change that. We're going to wipe. You're narrating what you're doing in the world, and also what that you're doing to their body, because it is their body, their space, even as an infant. So you want to be talking about, we're going to be getting the wipes out. We're going to wipe between your legs. We're going to wipe your butt, switch out the dirty one, put in a fresh one, and like you're talking through it so they understand what's going on to them. I can only imagine like being in a situation where they're new in the world and they just don't know what's going on. Like someone's laid me flat and like I'm doing all of these things and not telling me what's going on. we talk about, all right, yeah.
Serena talked about a while ago, we had an episode about a million ways why you should be talking to your baby. And until we did that episode, I wasn't aware that parents don't talk to their babies all the time, because it's just something that I have naturally always done. And so that idea of narrating, I want to bring that in for any new listeners who haven't heard us refer to that before. But narrating what you're doing every step of the way it develops a mutual respect also, right?
Right.
And for me, Katie, just to expound on your narration, I would typically say, okay, now I'm going to lift your legs up and I'm going to wipe that bum clean and then lay your legs down. And now I'm going to wipe around the scrotum and the penis and make sure there's no poop stuck around that spot. Or I'm going to wipe through the vulva just to make sure there's no poop in the cracks anywhere, and actually give them those anatomically correct terms for their body parts.
And
And I love that you brought that up, because that's something that if we start that from early on, it takes the negative charge or any type of stigma that we may have in society out of those words. They know it as simple as, oh, that's my scrotum, that's my elbow. Like, they know their body.
Exactly. What's the difference between a nose or an earlobe and a vulva? You know, I mean, why do we not? And that's why recently we talked about getting dolls that are anatomically correct dolls for the same reason. Why is there nothing down there in a doll? That is a subliminal message, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, back to you with narrating from day one.
Yeah, so you're just basically introducing them to the world. And part of that is, those areas that are, it's a hygiene practice while they're young, there is no consent able to be given, but you're laying the foundation for what is expected of them. So taking it from like changing those diapers, you're looking for, as you move into like social interactions with the baby, you'll start to notice as you get really in tune with your little one that there'll be non-verbals, because at that point they don't have the ability to be verbal other than to cry. But you're looking for their level of comfort signs, like in the same way that you'd watch them playing. If they want to be picked up, you'd be looking for those type of things, especially around the
Okay.
holidays.
So just to give our listeners a little more there, like wanting to be picked up, they might look up at you. And when they're able to, they might actually lift their hands up towards you, that kind of nonverbal cue.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes. And as we're interacting with friends and family and probably more people around the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
they're likely going to be exposed to a lot more people than they typically would. And they'll have those nonverbal cues. And for example, my little one, if he is uncomfortable, he and he's in proximity to someone else who may have their arms outstretched to be able to be wanting to hold him, he may tighten his grip on my arm and like lean back into me, or I'll also see him lightly raise his shoulders. So there's those nonverbal cues that he is uncomfortable with that situation and may need more time to be exposed to this person before he feels comfortable. So with those
I
little,
love that so much, because here you are visiting his maternal grandparents and aunties and whomever else is in your family in Australia for the first time since he was born. Your parents were there when he was born, but 8 months have gone by. This baby doesn't know those humans. He might have a little tiny bit of a memory that's in smell or sound or that kind of thing. But to insist that a baby goes with this person just because they're the grandparent and, pull them out of your arms and say, of course, grandma can hold you, is just, it corrodes that kind of trust that we're trying to build with our infants, right? We know that they're a
absolutely.
safe person. We know that they're family. And it's okay for a child not to want to go. Now, what happens, Katie? What do we do if that infant doesn't want to go to grandma or grandpa and grandma or grandpa gets offended?
I think it's really important to be their voice, to be able to voice their experience. If they are visibly, like you as the parent are seeing, they're visibly uncomfortable and they don't want to do it, in the same way that you would hold space for them if they were older, you just, oh, it looks like Ollie isn't ready to go to you or wants to stay with mama or dad or whoever. So you're voicing his
Yes.
experiences, but to the adult. And you're making it more of a nonchalant. You're not, it's just you're acknowledging that this is the state that they're in and they may be comfortable later, they may not be comfortable later. And that's perfectly okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an interesting time that you're visiting your family, because 8 months old is typically when we get a whole nother level of wanting to be close to mama.
Oh, and
Not,
that's exactly what's unfolding.
yeah. Interesting
Yes.
timing. Okay. And then where do we go from there? I love the nonverbal cues. I love that you're speaking to that. Now, what about when they are a little bit older, toddlers running around and they have a little bit of language? What do you recommend there?
Yes. The way that I really love when the little ones are able to communicate a little bit back, and you're starting to be able to give them options like, would you like to wear the blue socks or the green socks today? And they can have that choice. In the same way that we're building the choices that we can for them during their day-to-day tasks, we can also then build in how they wish to greet people. So rather than the previous adage of, oh, go give aunt a hug and like it's a directive, we can build in a choice. We can say, how would you like, depends on their age, but you can say, how would you like to say hello to aunt? Or how would you like to say goodbye? Or if you know they're partial to, would you like to give a hug or a high five or just a wave or use my voice? Like you're giving them options, and you probably, as a parent, probably want to pick which two to make it a little bit easier for them as to what they may be feeling based on knowing them and their like the phase that they're in and how their level of comfort. Have they seen this person in a while? So you're giving them the option. You're not doing the directive, because I think that gives so much of a disservice to everything we're trying to build into our children as far as like stranger danger and things like that, where we're not trying to override their internal like alarm red flag system. If they're feeling uncomfortable, it's probably because something in their body says, I'm not comfortable. And we want them to recognize that, especially as they go through life.
It's so important for our friends and family not to take it personally. This infant or this toddler doesn't not want to hug you or kiss you because they don't like you. Maybe they don't like you, but that's another topic. But mostly it's just because they're not comfortable right in this moment. They might not know you very well. They might not feel like it. They might just want some extra mama time, especially in the busyness of the holidays and the chaos of it all, right?
Yes.
I wanted to just give a quick list of, I just jotted down a bunch of ideas of different ways that a child could greet or say hello or goodbye, just to give our listeners an idea of all the different ways that they can. If they don't want to give a kiss or a hug, and if that's being requested, in your bunch of options, you can, like you said, Katie, choose a couple to give them, but they might include a wave, hello or goodbye, saying hello or goodbye from mama's arms or behind your leg or at the doorway or whatever, a smile. Sometimes if we're passing somebody on the street and they say hi, you just smile and nod. If you can't do more than that, you give them a smile. Giving a high five or a pound with the fist, each other's fist is another option. And then the parent giving the words, even if the child is just not feeling it. So the parent saying, oh, guess you're just not feeling any of it right now. Bye, Grandma. And away you go. Right? That kind of thing.
Yes. And I love those different options, because there's something for every social interaction and every mood for that. And sometimes we as adults don't feel like we want to give people hugs, and vice versa. So we're extending that same option to our kids.
Especially during COVID, I'm still not hugging a lot because I'm immunocompromised. And then we got into the elbow bump, right? With COVID.
Oh, yes.
That was another one.
That could be part of a secret handshake.
That could. Yeah. Awesome.
And to add to that as well, as for those of us who may have little ones who may not be as forthcoming with other people that they don't see regularly, or maybe if they are people that they see regularly, that when we're narrating their experience, we're saying to the other person who we may not have the opportunity to say anything beforehand, to just say, oh, looks like little one isn't feeling it today. We're describing the emotions as opposed to labeling them as shy, because I think labeling them as shy because they listened to their body and they didn't feel comfortable, in the long run, that does more detriment than good, because then that becomes a label.
Yes, 100,000%. I'm reading an incredible book right now called Quiet: How to Survive as an Introvert in a World That Won't Stop Talking. Something like that. And so many of us are quieter humans, or quieter sometimes. All of us have times where we don't feel that outgoing. And it's so important not to label. And that, oh, he's just shy right now. Oh, she's always shy. That labeling with the shy is something to please, listener. Please remove that part from your vocabulary. It's really, really important just to let your child be who your child is, and to be totally fine with how their expression in the world is without giving it a label.
And that even if there was a situation where someone was labeled shy, it overrides their sense of, oh, I need to make myself uncomfortable in order to make someone else feel comfortable. And that's the foundation of consent, is like being able to understand the permission-based and being able to learn your body red flags. So if we're overriding that, then we're not doing as good of a service that we could do for our kids. So we're trying to build that protective factor, because it may feel like consent at the age of an infant, at the age of a toddler, may seem trivial, but it's all the foundation building blocks that we add different things to it. For as the brain develops, the brain changes, the brain learns to understand their place of sense of self in the world, that they know these things and can start to really tap into what they understand with their body and their sense within the world.
I love that connection between their body and their internal, alarm bells going off, and their ability to be heard about that. That's what we're all aiming for here, right? Is our ability to see those red flags, feel those alarm bells, and respond to those appropriately. So with Serena's example of people in her family saying, and these are people who are, in your children's lives, right? They're not actually strangers to them, but saying something like, come on over and give me a kiss if you want your present. No, you don't get your present unless you give me a kiss. To me, I'm going to let you talk to that, Katie, but to me, the initial things that comes up is, let's talk about stranger danger. You come on over here and I'm going to give you some candy. Come on over. I've got this beautiful candy in my car and I've got a puppy dog in the back seat. Come on over. What's the difference? We're setting our children up to be taken advantage of, potentially, like God forbid, but that we have to be realistic about this. So can you speak to that, Katie? How can our listeners set up their toddlers who are perhaps, somewhat verbal, not infants in arms, but now toddlers? How can we support them in setting themselves up to either avoid that whole the interaction happening in the first place, or if it does happen and catch them out of the blue, how is it best for them to respond?
Yeah, I think it's definitely so much of that mixed messages, like you said. It's this, you're trying to teach them that no, don't take this for that in a situation like candy or the puppy or something like that. But then it's happening in the family or within the circle, the community circle. It's so contra indicative of the situation. And I think if you are likely to go into a situation where you know a family member or you may have an interaction where someone may likely say something like that, I would encourage you to have some words in your back pocket as the adult. So you're getting in front of it. So you're taking the choice doesn't then come from your child knowing what to do. It's you stepping in as the adult. Like metaphorically in front of them, you could say something like, "Oh, that's lovely that there is a gift. However, little one does not feel comfortable to give you a kiss." It's all based on your relationship with that person. I think it's going to be very unique, but you're getting in front of the situation to
Yes.
diffuse it, because it is a challenging one, especially as you're trying to educate a different generation about how you're parenting, and there may be pushback. So you just kind of go into it a little bit more prepared.
Yeah. And for me, it's more about actually in our family, we don't exchange hugs and kisses for any quote reward. That's not how gifts happen in our family, straight up.
And if you would like to be more firm as well, you can say, if you have a gift for a little one, we say thank you. So you're cutting out that whole exchange part. Like if there's a gift, you say thank you. Like that's the end of the in between.
That's the appropriate way of acknowledging a gift, is to say thank you. And if a child feels like running up to you and giving you a hug or a kiss, great. But not where it's give me that and I'll give you this. That is scary territory for me. So we talk a lot on the Nurturing Parent about pre-paving with our children. This is a great thing to pre-pave about, coming up with those 2 or perhaps 3 options of ways of saying hello if they don't feel like giving a kiss or a hug. That was the other thing I wanted to say was, let's remember that inappropriate touching or worse in the sexual realm of things happens. I don't know if you know the statistics, Katie, but it is far more frequent with somebody a child actually knows. It's not the strangers that are the problem. So if
Absolutely.
your child's red flag or alarm bells are going off and they don't want to give auntie or uncle or grandma or grandpa a hug, they may have a very real reason for that. It might just be a one-off. Just because they don't want to hug that person or kiss that person doesn't mean your alarm bells need to go off necessarily. It just means they don't feel like it right now. And that needs to be honored and acknowledged, right? And that's why it's so important to really follow their lead on this.
And even to kind of build on that as well, I can say within like the older generation / what I'm experiencing with like the grandparents or extended aunts and uncles, they may be talking about like secrets. Oh,
Yes.
we'll have this chocolate, but we'll keep it a secret from mom and dad, or like something like that, along with those, unfortunately, the higher incidences of any type of abuse that may happen being someone they know. It's typically because there was a secret, or like keep this secret, or don't tell them. And if you try and teach your kids that there are no secrets from mum and dad, there are secrets, which are like, we don't keep secrets, or surprises,
Yes.
where they are, right now, we're not telling mum about a birthday party because it's a surprise birthday party and she will know. Like, there's teaching that distinct difference, because if you've armed them with knowing that if someone touches my body when I'm not okay with that, then that's a red flag. That's something that needs to be told to mum or dad or whoever the safe adult is in that space. And we're also diffusing the secrets. Then we're giving them the skills to know these things.
Because most abusers will tell the child they have to keep it a secret. What happens between them is a secret, and they'll make that either enticing or scary for the child to go and tell someone. So I love that you brought that up. I wrote a whole magazine article on this exact topic, getting away from the word secrets and using the word surprises. So, right now it's the holiday season. We're going out and we're getting presents, or we're making presents for each other, and those are surprises. Let's not tell mama what we got her. Let's keep it a surprise and get away from that secret word. Thank you for bringing that up.
And it even can tie back into like when we're changing their diaper as a little one and they know their body part names.
Yes.
Unfortunately, people who are looking to abuse will seek out kids who don't have like that. They don't have the relationship with
Awareness.
their parents, awareness
Yeah.
for the secret, and then also that don't have that confidence in knowing the body parts. Because there's
Yes.
incidences where people have been like, so and so touched my cookie because the parents hadn't normalized saying vulva, or and then people are like, oh, that's funny, it's just a chocolate chip cookie or whatever. Like it's just dismissing it because it's
Yeah.
a euphemism for another thing, but
Mm-hmm.
realistically it was an inappropriate touch that was told to the parents and was initially dismissed. So the power of
Mm-hmm.
teaching them the anatomically correct body parts is so much more powerful than just them knowing it, having that empowerment to know what is good and what is not.
And
Thank you for circling back to that, because that is why we use the appropriate terms. Can you just tell our listeners, just list off the appropriate names for everything that's in the diaper region on one gender or another?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the male anatomy. So we've got the penis, we've got the scrotum. If you want to talk about the perineum, like there's those aspects. We've got the vulva, which is the external scrotum.
What do you call the bum or the anus? Do you tend to use the word anus, or do you just use bum or bottom? What is appropriate there?
I think it's if you're discussing the bottom as a space, like we're gonna clean your bottom, like we're referencing the
The
space.
whole, the cheeks and
If you're
everything.
wiping, then you're saying, oh, we're gonna wipe your anus. Like we're breaking that down into those
So
different
the
parts.
anus being, for those listeners who might not know, that is the actual hole where the poo comes out, correct?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, good. Because I just am amazed, sometimes at what people know or don't know. And I think that in this conversation, we just need to be really specific about what we're talking about.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
let's move to the female anatomy then.
Yeah. So if you're talking about the female anatomy, we're talking about the external genitalia is actually known as the vulva, which is, I think, majority of us know it as a vagina, but the difference is the vagina is actually the internal to external canal. So, like, um, where as an adult or as a like menstruating person, you would insert a tampon into that space. So that's the vagina, whereas the external is the vulva. And if you want to get more specific, as we were imagining a diaper change, that we're wiping around the labia majora and just making sure there's no poop or anything like that that needs to be cleaned up in there.
Right. And the
Um,
labia is the lips of the vulva. We commonly call them the lips. Yeah.
yeah,
Great. And then the perineum you mentioned, and that's the
yes,
point between the vulva and the anus.
and the
Yes.
anus, yes,
Which is a
yeah,
very good term to know when you're pregnant and about to give birth. The
yes,
perineum is important.
I think I mean, for the people that I'm around, just using those words is uncomfortable for some parents, especially to say to their kids when they don't think that their kids even understand these words. And I mean, in my culture and what I see a lot is, I mean, it's a Spanish culture, but they make up cute little names like Chuchu, or
Mhm.
like I remember telling my daughter I told her it was her vagina, and like even that saying that out loud felt a little weird. And then she's like,
Yes.
"Oh, my vagina." And but I just
Yes.
remember feeling this little cringe feeling in me. But
Totally.
I
yeah,
know
It's
that's
it's like you learning to not be the authoritative parent. right? You get this cringe when your daughter wants to leave the Play-Doh out to dry because Play-Doh should be kept moist so you can use it again. You get these cringes because of how things were done when you were a child and how you're doing things differently. And this area of talking about sexuality with a 2-year-old is like bizarre. And listener, you might be feeling like this is over the top. And I get that. And I really hope you listen through this and maybe listen again a couple of times to let it sink in. The importance of naming our body parts for our children. We play the game heads and shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, knees and toes, and eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. We teach our children the names of their body parts. Clap your hands, stomp your feet, stomp, all the things. Why would we not teach them the word vulva or penis?
Because those are your privates. Like,
yes,
we're
and
taught
the
that those are your
children,
privates.
the
So,
your
children
bathing
who
suit
are
part.
those are your bathing suit parts. Those are your privates. The children who, as Katie just was speaking to, the children who do not know the anatomically correct names, and they have the little choo-choo or the cookie or the whatever the cutesy little terms are, tend to be children who are somehow more available for an abuser to prey on. If a child says to a potential abuser, "Don't touch my vulva," that's my vulva. That's mine. Like, it's going to be very different. Or if your child comes home and says, "Mama, somebody touched my vulva. My vulva hurts," because somebody's been doing things to it. Like, there's the empowerment. We need to give our little girls and our little boys the empowerment over their own bodies.
Even for us, saying the terms like, and if you're someone who doesn't necessarily feel comfortable saying those words, I think it's part of that unlearning and relearning phase that we're doing as becoming nurturing parents, because we have needed to take a look at how things happened or how we default to, and then challenge those ways to do it better, but we know why we're doing it. So we're learning more so we can help them. So it definitely, if you're someone who feels uncomfortable saying those words, even if you're in the car by yourself or something like that, if you
Say
want
them,
to
say them, say them.
say them, yell them, make them funny, like put on different voices.
Think about Emma.
Like,
vulva, vulva. Penis,
exactly.
penis, penis.
And if you're worried that you're going to, so you've going to then reteach your child from saying maybe a cutesy word to then teaching the anatomically correct. If you're then worried that your little one's going to go out in the playground and start screaming penis, that's there's some type of charge there may be in that word. If they're using it as their like preferred word, they may think it's just funny to say. But if you're truly taking the negative charge out of it that most of us have been packaged into, like feeling like, oh, we don't talk about this, or it's just an everyday word for them. If nothing else, if they scream it on the playground, maybe it's a conversation starter with another parent or something like that. But you're just normalizing that's just as normal as my arm.
We need to normalize this so that we have fewer Me Too stories moving forward. We need to normalize being able to say the names of our own body parts. I read a beautiful book with my grandson when he was about 12. He said, "Sure, we can read that together." It's called The Boy's Body Book. I'll get the name of the author for you to put in the show notes, Serena. And in the very beginning, she was a teacher, and she talks about how at the very beginning of talking about sexual education, she gets the children in the room to call out all the names they know for the male genitalia and then the female genitalia, all the names. Let's just write them on the board. And everybody's giggling and tittering and hoo-ha, and all the things, right? And yeah, so once they got past that point, it was they were all very interested. And my 12-year-old grandson wanted to read this out loud with his grandma. Like, that's
Wow.
awesome to me. Yeah.
It's
And I'll
awesome.
tell you, because I didn't raise a boy, I learned a lot, which was wonderful. I learned a few things. So I get that may be a little cringy. And like Katie said, we need to break through that, and we need to honor this whole new way of educating our children. Just matter of fact, they're just words and names of body parts, right?
Right. I agree.
Anything else there, Katie, that you want to give us just before we close off for this amazing
Yeah.
session?
Well, as far as what I would offer to you as the parents is just remember you are the voice of your child. Whether they have words or whether they don't have words, you have the level of understanding to see a situation for how they may be feeling and how it may make them feel. And if they are uncomfortable, you're the voice.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that is we do so much to protect our children, to make sure they're safe, to make sure they're healthy, that we're the voice. And
Nice.
addressing any adults that may be pushing something for something your child may be uncomfortable. And most of the time, it's not out of malice, it's just out of them wanting to show that they care and they love your child.
Mm-hmm. And that piece about the is there anything we could say to those parents, like pre-paving for them before we get into the situation? Is there anything that we could say just to set ourselves up for that maybe not happening?
Yeah, I think it's situational to the relationship you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, if it's something like family Christmas or family gathering or something along those lines, and there may be gifts exchanged, just explaining that um, when the little one says, "Thank you for a gift," it may involve a hug, it may involve a high five, it may say verbally it may be a thank you. Um, and each way is just as special, but please don't pressure for
Yeah. Yeah.
more than they are willing to physically interact.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome. Anything else for you, Mama Serena, with this hot topic?
It just brought a lot of awareness to it and helps me think about how I can approach it before I go into the situation instead of getting upset when I'm in the situation and it's not going as I'd like. So,
Yeah. We don't often talk about pre-paving with the other adults in our life, but this is a great opportunity to look at doing that potentially.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
And then can I just ask Katie the three questions that we always ask our listeners since it's your first
Sure.
time on the show and I know it's not going to be the last.
Yeah.
All right. So we have what's one thing that surprised you about becoming a parent?
Just the so because Ollie is 8 months, or he will be 8 months at the time the episode airs, is his level of awareness to where I am in the room, like
Mm.
the mama tracking. I did not expect it. He knows, like even from such a young age, he would
Yes.
know where I was. I didn't
Yes.
expect that. It's been surprisingly
Amazing.
beautiful.
Aw,
Aw,
I love that.
that's cute. The next one is what does being a nurturing parent look like to you?
Being being his voice when he doesn't have it, being able to see maybe how I was raised, and now with that hindsight of learning and unlearning, that I can start from where I left off as far as my understanding. So I can see, oh, instead of being labeled shy, I can say, oh, it's because he's not comfortable, rather than having to unlearn things. So, nurturing parent, you're there for him and you're guiding him as best you possibly can in a gentle way.
Sounds like
Beautiful.
a mama bear.
And just a little add on there to that, being his voice instead of labeling him shy. Observing what you see your child doing is the best way to do that. Oh, I see Ollie snuggling closer into me right now. I guess it's not time to go to grandma right this minute. And just again, verbalizing what you see and what you notice in his world. Yeah. And even not saying he's not comfortable, just verbalizing what you actually are witnessing. All right. What's our last question? Where can people find you? What are you up to out there in the world?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Katie Cordier. And yeah, feel free to, if you have more questions, reach out to me on Instagram message and I'll do my best to answer and explain. But always here to learn new things and be able to assist in any way I can.
I think this was a really, really powerful and empowering conversation. A little cringy, maybe for some of you. Lean into the cringe and be there for your babies and your toddlers and your teenagers, for heaven's sakes. Like, be there for your children. Okay. Well, let us know, or let Katie know, whichever, if you have any further questions about this hot topic. And in the meantime, know that we love you.
Thank you so much for joining this possibly cringy conversation, but also vitally important. This conversation was definitely uncomfortable for me, but knowing to prepare myself for this and just being aware of that this holiday season is also a big step. So to get into my gems for this week's episode, number 1 is definitely narrating and the importance of narrating. It's a powerful tool that our kids should be told what's happening to them and what we're doing, and that's how they build their vocabulary to know their body parts as well. Number 2 is ask them how they would like to say goodbye, whether it's in the moment or if you're preparing. Ask them if they would like to give a high five, if they would like to pound it, if a smile is good enough for them, or a thank you. Make sure that you stand up for them, speak for them, and say, how would you like to say goodbye? If they're ignoring somebody and that's uncomfortable for you, it could be for me because that's a sign of rudeness. But if it's uncomfortable, make sure that we're asking our kids, would you like to just give a high five or maybe not today? And then number 3 is to know that it's okay to use anatomically correct names for our body parts. And sometimes we're so scared that our kids are going to yell out these body parts. But let's think about the charge that we're giving these words and why they might feel like they want to yell it out. Maybe because they're getting more attention when they say it. So thanks so much for joining us. We hope you all have safe, happy holidays. We love you. And don't forget, if you want your gift from us, 5 days of activities, make sure you email us, put in the subject gift, and we will send that over. All right, take care.
I want to sing with you. I want to dance with you. I want to laugh with you. Oh, how I love to be with you. I do. I do. Such a short time we've been together. Seems like a lifetime or two. Never knew I could love another.